Now let's look at when is a function tracing. And the first example we have with graph. And as we looked at this earlier, what tracing is a process where all the operations in the particular function are put on a graph. Now here we have a function trace me, takes in an input argument x, and we have a print statement, and then we have this operation performed that is written by the function. We also have a decorator tf.function that converts this function into a graph. Now when we call this function using the input variable x, which is a tensor, it runs through this and we get the output with a print statement and the tf.tensor output. So this statement is executed, this is executed, we get both in the output. Now if we run the same, if we call the same function again with the input tensor x and with the added value of +1, we get only the tensor in the output. We do not get the print statement executed here. And the reason, as we saw earlier, is because when the graph is created, the print statement is excluded from the graph. And so only in the first call it is getting printed. And in the second call, it does not get printed because there's no tracing going on because the graph has already been created. Now, in this case, we have the same setup. However, instead of passing the value of x as a tensor, we just pass a number to, and now this gets executed in a way where we get the print, which is print trace. So we are able to see the printout for tracing. We get the output for the tensor that is there. We have value of 6, and when we run this again, we get the printout for the print statement tracing, and we have value of the tensor 11. And this is because in both the cases tracing is going on, and that's because here the input is not the TensorFlow constant, tf.constant, it's an integer from Python. So that is something to remember, because if you are trying to build a graph, you want to minimize retracing as far as possible. Now, as we saw earlier, when is a function tracing, new Python arguments always trigger the creation of a new graph, hence extra tracing. So as we saw here, these are the Python arguments and as an input, and these are not TensorFlow arguments as an input. So that was it for this video. I hope this video was comprehensive for you to learn about how graphs work in Python and in TensorFlow, how graphs are created, kind of the conceptual overview of how graphs are created, and how the tensor tf.function works to convert Python functions into a graph, and how the inputs to tf.function can change how the graph behaves, what things are included in the graphs, what are not included, and how this can be, what are the best practices when creating graphs using TensorFlow. If you have any comments or suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. I hope to see you all in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.